Welcome back to my workshop. Now today, hopefully a simple project. What we have here is the top of a dressing table. It's only a cheapy dressing table, but this one hasn't got any legs. Let me show you what the legs should look like. Right, so this is exactly the same top, but this is what the legs should look like. They're fairly straightforward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a leg off of this one and basically copy it and make 4. Okay, now how comes I've ended up with a dressing table with no legs? I'll explain. So just to put you in the picture, what happened was we ordered this one and we received it and it had this damage on it. Okay, the only reason we ordered it was because we needed it quick, but it arrived and it was all damaged like this. So we obviously applied to the manufacturer and all they did is they sent us a new unit like this. So we built the new one with the old legs. All right, so that means this one now hasn't got any legs. So what we're going to do now is build this one up and put it in a different room with its new legs. Right, let's get the old one apart. Right, so I've got one of the old legs off. The thing is standing upstairs on 3 legs at the moment. Right, it's not just square. As you can see, there's a bit of a taper here. It's really badly made. But there's a taper here. This side is tapered, this side is flat, and this side is flat. Okay, so what I've got to do is, first of all, start off with some stock. This is about 50 mil square by 74 centimeters. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to find some stock and just cut some squares first. Right, so as usual, I'm going to try and save myself some money. I've just rummaged through my wood pile of all bits of wood I salvaged from everywhere, and I've come across 3 bits of this, which is off an old bed, but it's 50 mil square. Okay, but it's been outside for quite a while, covered in paint, and it's got loads of dowel holes in it. But there may be enough there on 3 of those to make 3 of the legs. But of course I haven't got 4, so the 4th one, or I might make 2 out of this. Now this is just a piece of 2" by something or other. It's already been cut. But this is what I use for actually levelling the base when I made my shed in this video. Okay, so what I might do is I might make 2 out of this and then 2 out of the salvaged white ones. So the first thing I've got to do, cut these to length and then sand them down and see what the wood's actually like, because it may be a bit ruined. Right, so I've managed to get 2 legs out of the long piece of wood and 2 of my white legs. What I've got to do is cut these to the same size as these now. So I'm going to do that on the bandsaw. That will probably be the quickest and easiest way to do it. So let's run these through there. Right, I quickly use the angle grinder to get a lot of the paint off because there's a lot of it. Okay, but now I'm going to carry on with the random orbital sander to get the rest off. Let's put the extractor on. Right, some of you may say, why didn't you just run them through your planer thicknesser? Because you all know I've got one. The problem is, it's under this pile of rubbish. It would take me longer to get it out than it would do to sand it. So, that's why. Right, let's carry on sanding. Right, so the next step is I need to get this taper. Now, it's quite difficult to see, but it actually changes from 37mm here to about 50mm up here somewhere. So how can we see the difference? Well, if I put my new leg up against it, okay, you can see at this end that difference, and it tapers down to nothing. Right, how am I going to cut that? Well, I could have arranged my table saw with a special jig to cut this, but I've only got the 4 legs to do. So what I've done is I've taken a slice of this, like this, and I basically cut so it's the same angle. Okay, so now I've got a template I can use to cut my taper. Right, and I'm going to do that on the bandsaw. Let me show you how. Right, so on my taper here, my template, what I've got is the 37mm at this end. I've got a 50mm at this point here. And what I need to do is put a quick stop on here. So then what I can do is I can just butt the piece of wood onto here, run it through my bandsaw, and then it'll be the right shape. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just for ease, I'm going to put a little bit of CA glue on here, just because it's quick. Bit of activator on here, and then put that at my 50mm mark without sticking my fingers to it. Okay, so there's my stop. Okay, and what I do then is this actually runs against the fence, and I have to measure at the point where the blade is to that point there. That's got to be my smallest dimension, which is 37mm. Okay, so once the fence is tight there, what you can do, I'll use this as a demonstration. You put your piece of stock in there up to that part. This is against the fence, and then when you cut, it starts here and it gradually goes to the 50mm at the right point. Okay, so let's give that a quick go and see if it works. Okay, so here's my template. Here's the one I've just cut. Now this obviously should be 37mm at this end, which it is. And then at the end of the taper, it should be 50, which it is. So I've got my taper. Now all I've got to do is do that with that. Right, well, so that worked. So what I've got to do now is just turn this through 90 degrees, and that will give me my second taper. So I'll run along here. Right, so what I have now is my 4 tapered legs. These have been sanded a little bit. This one's a bit wet. I might have to wait for this to dry before I do too much more. But what I've got to concentrate on next is this part here, which is where the screws actually hold it to the top of the dressing table. Now, what I've got to do is obviously do a profile like this, but it's got to be on the opposite corner to, there's no tapers on that corner. Okay, so it's got to be on the opposite corner. So what I've got to do is mark these to make sure I get them in the right place. Otherwise, what will happen is when I put the legs on the dressing table, the tapers, one will go one way, the other will go another way. Okay, so these are all laid out now. All I've got to do is mark them. Okay, what I've done is I've set up my bandsaw here to cut me a 45-degree angle, and I've got a little stop block there which will determine how deep I go. Okay, so let's quickly cut those. Alright, so what I'm going to do, a quick trial run first on this scrap piece of wood, which is the same dimensions. Stop block here, 45 degrees. Let's cut it and see what happens. Okay, so what I have to do now is just cut this off and then profile the slope. Okay. Okay, you can see I've got my 4 corners here. Now all I'm going to do to get this slope here, I'm just going to use the angle grinder again with a flappy disc on it just to profile those. So on the original legs, what it's got is these little metal inserts, okay, and then you've got an Allen bolt or Allen screw that actually fits into them. So what I'm going to do is replicate that on all the other legs, and I've got these little inserts, okay, and all you do is you drill a hole, then you use an Allen key to wind these in, and then your screw can go into them. Okay, so all I've got to do is get these in the right place, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put them side by side like this and mark off my positions here and here, and then drill some holes. Right, before we go any further, I've got a bit of a problem with sanding. The problem is, right, this is the original leg, the one that was in the house, and it's been in the house for a few years. Let's check the moisture content. Yeah, 2%. That's nice and dry. Now let's look at what we've got. 18%. 15%, 16%, 15%. For this one, 34%. Yeah, a third of that is bloody water. Right, so I can't paint these until that's dry. And as soon as it's dry, I've got to re-sand it and then check to make sure it fits. But what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to give it a trial fit, see if these actually fit on this. Right, so they all fit, which is good. If you look here, you can see the taper on the inside. So on the outside of the unit, that's all flush. The outside's flush. That outside leg is flush. But on the inside, you've got a taper here, and then a taper on the inside here, and the same on the inside on this leg. Okay. Right, so what I've got to do now is wait for this leg in particular to dry, because that's 30% moisture. As soon as they're dry, I can take these back off, sand them, and then give them a coat of paint. But I think for now, that's pretty much it. So a quick and dirty set of tapered legs. Nice. Right, so that's about it. Now these 4 legs are a bit damp, so I've got to wait for them to dry before I paint them. Now this is very quick, simple, dirty. It's not fine woodworking by any stretch of the imagination. This is just so we could use this unit in a different room. So what I've done is I've made 4 new legs, the same profile as this. And what I've got to do now is as soon as they're dry, re-sand them and give them a paint. And I'll probably paint this as well and repair the top. Okay, but that's it. Not fine woodworking, but it didn't cost me a penny. Right, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learned something, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.